Did you know that earlier this year, the provincial government removed the ability for councils to pass a code of conduct? That's right. There are no longer codes of conduct for municipal elected officials across this entire province, which means there's no way for a resident to complain about a councillor's behavior or their staff for that matter. So what did I do about it? Well, we can't legally have one, but we can put into place voluntary measures. And so earlier this year, I introduced a notice of motion that upheld the principles of the code of conduct and many of the things that are in it so that residents could be assured that they could see some disclosure. So what were some of the disclosure rules? Disclosures around who we were meeting and what the topic was, disclosures about our spending of our ward office budget, disclosures about any gifts that we take. And then with respect to our staff, we also, with losing the code of conduct, it means that both counselors and our staff are no longer held to the respectful workplace policy that the city of Calgary had. So what did I do? I brought the notice of motion to make sure that we could, though voluntarily, have all of those pieces still in place, which means that I am still voluntarily disclosing spending of my ward office budget, meetings that I am taking, and gifts and benefits that I receive. And today, the final piece came before executive committee, which was that we could have a parallel respectful workplace policy for our staff that we could have our staff sign because our staff contract to us as counselors. And so that piece came to executive committee today. It passed at executive committee today and will go to council later this month. These are really important measures for the public. It's really important that the public has access to this. That is part of transparent and open and accountable government. And for the provincial government to take it away, it actually received pushback from municipal elected officials across this province. While there had been some challenges with it in a couple other municipalities, carte blanche getting rid of it isn't the solution. So the province says that they're working on it, but I didn't want to wait for them. I wanted to be sure that it was there immediately for everyone to continue doing. So I would ask that during the election, you ask your council candidates if they are, one, are they aware that there's no council code of conduct? Two, are they going to advocate for the province to put one back in? And are they going to have an integrity commission office at the provincial level? And three, are they going to comply with the voluntary disclosure policies that we've put in place? And four, will they have their staff sign the respectful workplace policy that will now be an addendum to the contracts that we can have for staff? Again, very important, and maybe not for you, but it is important for me. So I wanted to make sure that we have it. So that's a little bit of an update there. I want to just talk about what the next couple of weeks looks like from a council perspective. Today we had executive committee. We got updates. So we got updates on council accountability and safe and respectful workplace for employees. We got an update on the tariffs and just how, did you know that 95% of the goods that we procure for the city of Calgary are Canadian? So that's fantastic. I believe 60% were local. So we're using local contractors, local service providers to do the work with the city of Calgary. So, and then I think if my memory strikes me correctly, then 75% province and then 95% just Canadian. So that's really fantastic. So we are definitely leading in that respect. We also previewed 5 notices of motion, and one of them was around climate. I received messages in my inbox around climate and that we should stop spending on climate. I talked about this a little bit last week in one of my updates, but I just want to remind people that a lot of the spending on climate are on services that Calgarians are already using. Transit, for example, transit expansion is a climate initiative. Retrofitting our rec centers and our libraries with better air quality filters so that when it's smoky out, there's good indoor air. That's a climate initiative. So we do lots of things already that are climate initiatives. I actually want to pull up. I'm just going to switch real fast here because I had a couple more examples. Water quality is a big one. So Climate initiatives also include things like managing for both flood and drought, both situations which we've potentially faced this year. Earlier this year, we were potentially in a drought position, especially on the Elbow River. And then we had so much rain, we were managing for potential flood mitigation and risk. So managing for climate is managing the different weather patterns, and it's really more about adaptation to what we are seeing, and retrofitting our buildings for energy efficiency so we are spending less money. So can we get an accountability report on spending? I think that those are worthwhile things pursuing. What I've always said is there's a way to do it that isn't grandstanding, a month or so before an election to ask for a fully audited report in 2 months. That's just not feasible. And I would expect that councillors who've been around for 4 years, especially someone like Councillor Wong, who talks about how he was in audit and how he sits on the audit committee, that he would understand that there's a better process to go through to deliver this information to Calgarians. So it's not necessarily about not wanting. So if I'm going to vote against it, it's not about not wanting to give the information to Calgarians. It's about the timing and the appropriateness of it, and it's about the pathway forward. I could monkey with the recommendations. I've done it before on other people's notices of motion. I'm contemplating doing it still, and I shouldn't say monkey. That's really not appropriate. I could change them so that they were appropriate. And then that comes in, but I will just say, like right now, that just becomes like a bickering match on the floor of council, and that's not what Calgarians are needing. I really want to stay focused on just continuing to move us forward in this last month that we have here. Tomorrow, we start probably we do start our last public hearing of this council. There's over 50 items on it. Including a couple land use amendments in Ward 11, and so I'll be listening intently with that and others across. The big ones for me that are coming, again, Councillor Walcott and I worked on notices of motion to update the land use bylaw to streamline planning processes. And a lot of it is just discrepancies. So discrepancies, and we have two very similar housing districts. We have HGO, housing grade oriented, and we also have RCG. The garage sizes, there's discrepancies in the garage sizes there. So we just need, one of the amendments is to actually just make sure that the garage sizes are the same. And one of the reasons they need to be the same is actually so there's better storage for garbage bins. That's one of the reasons. The other big one for me that I'm really looking forward to is childcare as a permitted use in residential homes. And this is just, again, knowing that we have a rapidly growing population, 100,000 people in the city last year. Families are looking for childcare, and families are looking often for community-based and home-based childcare. And so this allows for those who are seeking to provide that, especially, and we know this is women, this is grandmas, these are, female-owned businesses, for them to be able to enter that pathway and to start providing care for families and for those kids in a more streamlined and a more efficient process, and not have to come for council for approval for a change of use on their land. So that, I think, is a really important step towards serving Calgary families. I've been a champion of it and have been asking for this for almost 4 years now. And so here we are as a culmination of that. So that is this week, and then Community Development Committee on Thursday. Next week, we have Indigenous Council on Monday. We have regular council on Tuesday, which is when we'll look at notice of a motion, and then any of the reports that have come through committee land on consent. And then we have a strategic council, which is our final preview of budget before we take a break for election. And so nominations have to be in September 22nd, and then we're essentially in the official red zone, which is where as councillors, we are permitted to go to officially invited events as councillors, but we need to be very, very wary of being in our office and using council and all those other resources, and everything just hits pause for election in that writ period. And so we essentially would only meet as a council if there was an emergency, but we are then not making any decisions as a council in that 1 month period. So that's a little bit looking forward. And I can say from a campaign standpoint, we're heading out tonight to hit the doors. So even though we've had executive committee today, I've got a couple, probably 12-hour days ahead of me in the next 2 days. We're going to go hit the doors tonight. I expect by the end of tonight, we'll have hit 1,000 doors in 3 days. And that's a lot. So we're really committed and motivated to getting around to Ward 11 residents. And we are hearing about all kinds of things. Probably the number one thing that I am hearing actually is about the party system and the dislike of the party system. So this is my reminder. I'm the only independent candidate in Ward 11 not running with a party. I would note that that also comes with disadvantages. So if you are with a party, you can collect twice as much money under the new finance rules from the provincial government. And so that is definitely a disadvantage on my part. So if you are able to contribute even $11, I would greatly appreciate it. And that helps get a message out, not only about having independent local government, but also just one that is about taking our city forward in a really balanced and thoughtful approach that is neither extreme. And that is what I have done for the last 4 years. We have balanced out projects and we've balanced out large investments in large projects and also delivering on community-based amenities. And so we need to continue to do that to serve Calgarians. So with that, I'll wish everybody a happy Monday and wishing you all the best in your week ahead. And we'll see you in community. We'll see you on the doors and take a look and follow along for more messages about what I'm putting forward for the next election. Thanks, everyone.